What is going on, my friends? And it is your daily voice of reason in this crazy market that we're seeing right now. And as we can see, we do see that Safemoon, Bitcoin, ADA, XRP, Doge, they're all falling right now. Markets are looking pretty red. People are starting to scream that the sky is falling. And I am just simply here to give you guys my opinion, what I'm seeing right now, why I'm still not stressing as per usual, and then what I'm looking forward to in the future. So with that being said, let's go ahead, let's jump into the computer here, and let's get straight into this thing. So as we can see here, just briefly looking at these numbers, we can see that prices are down. Right, we see Bitcoin down about 3%, Doge 4%, XRP 3%, Matic 4%, ADA 2.8%. I mean, it's pretty down. It's pretty red right now, and everyone's a little bit worried. Everyone's starting to get a little bit nervous. We're starting to see a breakdown right now. So what I wanted to talk about are some bearish things, some bullish things, some things we need to be looking out for, and why, again, I am not stressed. So if you are excited about that, let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. So first and foremost, let's talk about some bearish things. Let's talk about the red. Let's talk about the negatives. Let's just get them out the way now, because they are starting to grow. We're starting to see more negatives and more negatives. But with that, again, I'm still not too stressed. So where I want to start off is let's just start with, of course, our daily Gaussian channel, because that is something that we have been tracking over the last few weeks, especially as we have been seeing an active resistance. So what I want to kind of talk about today is that we are still unable to clear it, right? We're still working within this. We're still seeing this squeeze happening right now. It's something of a wedge, just a little bit more, circular / organic shaped, right? Not so linear. But what we can see is that we have gone for that retest. We went for that retest on the 11th and the 10th. And from there, we were unable to clear it. And now we are again retesting our support. I mean, we've been operating within this for honestly just the last month or so. And it doesn't surprise me that once we saw that failed test that we are falling. So that's bearish thing number one. Of course, we do want to see us be able to break into this, but we will talk about that when we talk about some bullish things, because there are some bullish aspects of this right here. So the next thing that I do want to talk about is something that we have been tracking a pretty good bit, especially over the last, I'd say over the last week or so. And if we do go over to our EMAs, we can pull up a EMA here. Let's go ahead and let's get our 55 pulled up. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull up our 55, and then we're going to go look at the weeklies real quick. And one thing that we can see is on these, oh, there we go, didn't mean to do that. One thing that we can see is that on these levels, we have started to lose that 55 week EMA. Now, I don't believe that this is absolutely just the worst thing ever, because we have seen this time and time again, okay? We've seen during this week, during this week, during this week, and this week, and a little bit on that week and last week, that we have fallen below this 55 week EMA. What's very, very important, though, is that if we do continue to, see some of this downward momentum, that by the end of the week, we do start to work our way back up and re-close above this level, okay? One thing that I will say is that we typically have not seen within bull markets a closing within this 55 week EMA that hasn't led to further downtrends, and then we'll talk about the Gaussian channel and everything like that. And so with that, I do believe that if we do see a close below this 55 week EMA, that could be the start of something pretty, more extensive in terms of, bear markets or, just higher volatility to the downside. So speaking of volatility, so, something that we do look at quite often is going to be our Bollinger Bands. And if I do go ahead, and I'll just exit out of that EMA for a second here. One thing that I will say is if we do get our Bollinger Band width pulled up, we can see again that we are anticipating some of that volatility, okay? And so if we do go out to the dailies, we can see that they have started to see this bit of a squeeze here, right? Whenever we do start to see the Bollinger Band start to squeeze and the price start to, get a little bit more narrow, we can see that volatility does typically follow pretty soon after. And so it does kind of show time and time again, especially around the levels in which we're at the moment. If I do go ahead and I just simply draw a line here, we can see, and sorry if my notes sound stuffy, it's allergies, it's Louisiana weather, it sucks, but one thing that we can see is that around these times that we do start to see us consolidating around these levels or falling below them, that this increase in volatility does follow soon thereafter. As we can see, we have this big run up here and we do have some volatility. So typically this level in which we are seeing does show that, okay, some type of volatility or major swing in the price could be coming within the next a few weeks here. And so it doesn't necessarily tell us if it's going to be going down or if it's going to be going up. But what it does say more than anything is just to expect that some type of move is coming soon. And so with that, I do believe that we are looking at a potential closing below that 55 week EMA, that could definitely lead to some selling pressure. It could lead to a little bit of downward momentum, maybe a retest of some of these levels, which would of course be then displayed by the widening, of course, of our Bollinger Bands. And then that would show the volatility in which we are anticipating. So not necessarily necessarily saying it is going to happen, but it is for sure something that we do need to look out for. And lastly, just another thing that we do need to pay attention to, because I think it has led to a little bit of this fall in which we are seeing at the moment, is if we do go ahead and we pull up some moving averages. Let's get 2 of those pulled up. We can go out. Let's make this one R100. There we go. And then if we go ahead and we take this one, let's make this one our 200. We can see that we did have a bit of another death cross happen here. Let me go ahead and exit out of that so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Then let's go to our dailies. So as you can see, we did have a bit of a death cross happening here. Now, what a death cross is, if you're a little bit new to technical analysis, is basically when your more short-term moving average does cross over your more long-term moving average, as you can see. Now, you may have heard of this a few weeks ago, or, like maybe about 2 weeks ago, roughly. And that is because we did actually have another death cross that formed from the 50 and the 200. And that was going to be more back on like the middle of June. So about a month ago, roughly. That was the one a lot of people were talking about. And as you can see, it did lead to a bit of a sell-off there. It's more of a lagging indicator. It's not one that I'm honestly too concerned about. I really don't pay attention to death crosses all that much, just because they are lagging indicators and they can be anticipated. But as we are looking at technical analysis, it is to be considered that technical analysis can be a representation of the psychology of investors and traders. And so since we are seeing that death cross, we saw that death cross form, I do believe that that has had a bit of an impact here that somewhat caused this fall here. So overall, with that, that's kind of like the technical things. Those are like the technical bearish things that we're seeing. And then, of course, we are also seeing that the GreyScale Bitcoin unlocks are going on right now. And typically that does correlate, and have some sort of correlation with the fall in price. Not 100% sure why, but there are seemingly misconceptions about what exactly this is. But I do want to go ahead and we can see here that, if we do have a quick quote here from Lauren Bilka or Belika, I'm not 100% sure, says that we have to notice that it is not Bitcoin getting unlocked from this GreyScale event, as it is just GreyScale shares, GBTC. And as the trust has no redemption mechanism, GBTC cannot sell its Bitcoin holdings. So the unlocking of Bitcoin shares should not have the spot price Bitcoin. But one argument that people do make is that if people, especially institutional investors, are, instead of buying Bitcoin, they're buying GBTC, and they're doing that as these unlocks do happen, that could lead to a decrease in volume for Bitcoin, which would make sense because people are going to be buying GBTC at something of a discount in comparison to Bitcoin itself. So if we do go ahead and if we do pull up just a little bit of volume here, we can see that actual correlation there, that we are seeing a bit of a fall there. There's not much volume going on, even with a bigger candle like this one, right? So overall, those are just some of the things that I think have caused the fall that we are seeing right now, with the prices going down about 3 or 4%, which again, I'm not too stressed out about it because there are still the bullish things, there are the good things, and that's something we're going to talk about right now. So let's talk about them. Let's figure out what we need to be looking for and what we need to pay attention to going forward. So yeah, sure, there are bearish things going on, but I would say that it's not fully bearish. It's not confirmable to say like, oh, we're in a big bear market or anything like that just yet. So what I want to talk about is if we do go ahead and we pull up our Gaussian channel again, let's go ahead and get our Gaussian channel pulled up. This is something that you guys know I'm a big fan of watching. And if we go up to our weekly, we can see that this is starting to happen, and this is a big moment. This is the moment that I think we've all been waiting for, and I think the Bollinger Bands, as we did go over just a second ago, as they are starting to squeeze, we're also anticipating some type of reaction from this. So you guys do know that something I've been pointing out and talking about recently is that if you want to look at your 5-day Bollinger Band or your weekly, I don't think it makes a huge difference. I kind of like the just the weekly personally, but if you do look at the weekly Gaussian channel, you can see that we are finally starting to see that test, and this is something that I was anticipating, especially if we were going to start breaking down below that 55-week EMA. So with that being said, what can we expect from this, and what would cause this to be a bearish scenario for me to start saying, okay, we're probably looking at a bear market here and maybe some type of extensive period of downturn? It would take this retest to be failed. Okay, and what I mean by that is, if say we see something like this happen, right? Boom, 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 and Bitcoin's price starts to do something like this over the next few weeks, failing to find support and working its way to the bottom of this. Let's see if it just continues out this way, and we start to see something like this. Of course, I mean, we're looking at 18, 17,000. That's very obviously some type of extensive bear market there, but where it comes into play is how we react to these different levels. So the ones that I look at right now, I think this is very important to see if we can maintain this. Can we bounce off of this top of this Gaussian channel and start to work some more upward momentum? Or if we do start to fall within it, or just get consumed by it, when we start to likely fall, we're gonna probably, I would say, interact with this mid channel here is typically our reaction point, and I would say, okay, can we find support? And I think that's important because in the past it does show where we're going to be going in the future. And so an example of that is coming out of that big bear market in which we saw this pullback here, right? So we're going up, we see a bit of a pullback here, we see this interaction with the Gaussian channel. This typically does follow after that EMA. Hold on, let's go ahead, I'm gonna pull this up just so you can see it. We can see that this is followed moving average exponential. There we go. And if we go ahead and if we pull up our 55 one more time, we can see this interaction here. Okay, so as we do start to lose our 55-week EMA, we can see that we then typically will see that big fall back to mid channel. Okay, now from there, as we can see, as you know, the pandemic did start to rage on, we actually did find support here, which looked great. We worked our way out of it, but then we saw that major flash crash, you know, and I do believe this was an anomaly. I think had that flash crash not happened in the stock market and multiple other places, that we would have seen a continuation of an uptrend here. I would have been honestly very surprised if we would have even fallen below this level, simply because we did recover it so quickly. And I think that goes to kind of show that realistically this, you know, failure of support was more from, you know, what was going on in the world than anything else. Okay, but from there, as we did find support here, we started to work our way back up, and so this retest all the way back down here was successful in a way, even though we did break through due to the pandemic, because we did see that continuation to the upside. But of course, there is the flip side. There is the what ifs, and the what if at the moment is if we do break down below this 55-week EMA, as we have been talking about, and we do start to lose support here, that could then lead to this continuation to the downside. And I think that is something that people do, you know, we need to pay attention to, because how we interact with some of these levels goes to show, okay, how long are we looking at upside potential? How long are we looking at downside potential? So those are a few things that I'm looking at. There's one more thing that I think is really important, and it kind of plays somewhat hand in hand to some of the support and the resistance in which we have been seeing recently. And that is going to be how we're reacting to the 1618 extension off of that previous, this previous bull cycle that we did see here. So if we do take our top, our all-time high, and if we do work our way all the way back down, let's go right around there, we can see something at the moment that we do still have this short-term resistance, or this short-term support, sorry, that is working well. And I think that this is going to be important. You know, I wouldn't say that this is going to be a point of resistance or support that's going to be around for, you know, months and months and months, but I do believe that in maybe the short term, maybe in comparison, maybe a few weeks, the next few months, that if we can maintain above this 1618 Fibonacci extension based off of our previous all-time high down to this low here, that would be very, very optimal. It's something that we have not broken down and closed below before. And so if we do see, say, a fall down, say our Gaussian channel comes up here, boom, 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 something like this, the price starts to fall, we touch it, we fall into our Gaussian channel, plus we lose the 1618, and we have some closes in this area, the loss of support. At that point, that's when I'm starting to say, okay, this is not looking good. Things are definitely looking bearish, and I'm going to get my pockets ready, because now I'm probably going to start to buy up a lot, okay? But realistically, until we start to see these things happen, these little movements that we're seeing right here don't really stress me out all that much. Now, I must say that we are seeing some, you know, there are some more bullish things going on at the moment. I would say less than bearish, but we definitely are seeing some bullish things, especially just with the overall cryptosphere itself and what, you know, some movements we're starting to see, which I'll explain in a second here. But in terms of what we are seeing on, you know, the charts that are looking pretty bullish, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull up that Gaussian channel one more time. I always type in GC. There we go. Gaussian channel one more time. And I will say that it is relatively bullish, the fact that although it did fail, if you do go ahead and we zoom in, for the very first time on July 12th, we actually re-entered into our Gaussian channel for a split second. I mean, for just maybe less than a few hours each day. But as you can see, since this fall has happened on the dailies, we have failed to even remotely come close. We've not touched, and then we touched it. But then from there, as we've gotten a little bit closer, look at this. Hold on, let's do this. We've gotten a little bit closer. So this gap closed, and then that's a gap. That's what we missed. That's the, you know, the range we couldn't clear. Then we started to see that gap slowly start to close, and then we touched into it. And so I would say that it is a sign that resistance could be failing. It's a sign that resistance could possibly be failing as we are getting a little bit closer, but it will be important to monitor because we are unable to close within it. And until we do that, I would say, okay, well, this thing is still looking short-term bearish, but that is a bullish hint. That's some type of possible foreshadowing that we could be seeing bullish movements here. Now, another thing I do want to point out is if we do go ahead and we do pull up the RSI, we can see that we are starting to see some type of divergence. Now, before we do go a little bit further into this, I will just let you guys know, if you do want access to all this information, if you want to, really be able to access my TA, be able to access me, be able to get early access to these videos and more, go down to the link in the description and go check out the Patreon, of course. But as I was saying, we are seeing some type of bullish divergence here. So let's go ahead, just a little bit of a visual or an illustration of what we are going to be looking for. A bullish divergence has absolutely the same characteristics as a bearish divergence, but in the opposite direction. We have a bullish divergence when the price makes lower bottoms on the chart, while your indicator is giving you higher bottoms. So if we do go ahead and if we switch this thing off, let's take this and let's turn it into a line. I just kind of want to point out that we are seeing just that. So if we do go ahead and if we pull from here to here, we can see that bit of a downtrend there. But if we take that same region, and I want to be able to, there we go. If we do take the same region and we do start to work our way upwards, we can see that there is that divergence there. So just again, it is going to be when the price makes lower bottoms and your indicator is giving you higher bottoms, lower bottoms, higher bottoms. So I would say that that's definitely a great sign. That's a great sign. And if we can definitely maintain that, I would be very excited about it. But one thing we are seeing is a breakdown in the RSI right now. And I would love it if we can keep, we could continue to set these higher lows, because that will keep, confirming relatively this bullish divergence in which we are seeing. That I think if we do go down and we test that Gaussian channel and we are able to continue to establish that as support as well as maintain above the 1618, we can definitely be seeing some type of uptrend continuing with that happening. Now, last but not least, one thing in which we are seeing that was pointed out by Lark Davis, so definitely big shout out to him, is something very funny. It is pure manipulation at its finest, and it's something that I honestly think is long-term bullish for the crypto world itself due to the idea and the reasonings behind it. So something interesting is that BlackRock CEO Larry Fink sees a little demand for Bitcoin as a long-term investment. Now, one thing that's pretty funny about that is considering the fact that BlackRock, not too long ago, purchased about a 12 to 14% stake in MicroStrategy, right? And so realistically, if they didn't have any hope for Bitcoin, if they didn't think that it was going to have, a big impact on the world, if they didn't think that there was demand or potential for it, well, realistically, why would they want that much exposure to it? It makes no sense. What that says to me is that they're trying to buy it at a discount, and inherently that is bullish in my opinion. Now, I think that the short-term effects could be bearish, but long-term, that just goes to show that the manipulation is still going, and they only manipulate something that they think has a lot of upward potential that will be able to execute that upward potential in a while. And last but not least, just in the markets, one thing in which we are seeing is that miners are really starting to relocate and seem to be preparing for something great. And the miners are the ones that I pay close attention to, because they're kind of the ones who make this whole operation work, right? And so whenever they're doing things that are seemingly bullish or, making moves that are preparing them for some type of good thing within the market, that kind of goes to show to me like, okay, they're expecting some type of upward movement. So as we can see, ARK Invest CEO to CNBC says Bitcoin is becoming healthier as miners are relocating around the world and begin using more renewable energy. We can see here that Bit Digital, a NASDAQ listed Bitcoin mining company, has shipped 14,500 machines to the United States just this quarter alone. We can also see that Greenidge LLC has purchased 2,300 Watts miner rigs, acquiring financing over 6,000 Antminer rigs, and will be joining Foundry USA pools. So as we can see, they seemingly are preparing to continue, forward. Like, they're not worried. If they were worried, they wouldn't be purchasing all these rigs. They wouldn't be doing all of that if they really thought that the potential for Bitcoin's future was not there. And realistically, we do have to understand that environmental friendliness and eco-friendliness are things that are really just growing into popularity, are really just starting to become a big societal impactor. And I think that going forward, the fact that they are taking the steps to make sure that things are, eco-friendly, as ARK Invest CEO, Kathy Wood did say, I think that all of that is definitely going to be beneficial. And so we can see that in a long-term perspective, the good things are still happening, right? The fundamentals are still getting stronger. The foundation is still being established for the real crypto world itself, and the uptrend that we are going to likely see, happen within the next year, within the next 2 years, who really knows when. And, some people do always say, well, Tyler, when you make these videos, you never say it's going to go up now, it's going to go down now. Give us a more, clear answer. And that's not my job, right? My job is to simply say, this is what we're looking at. These are the goods. These are the bads. This is the in-between for you to make your own decisions, okay? I'm never going to come on here and say, like, oh, it's going to go up or it's going to go down, because no one can for sure know. And you got to understand that in a position as a YouTuber, no matter what we do, we're always wrong, right? That's just kind of how it works. If we say it's going to go up and it goes up, we're saying they said we're manipulating things. Or if we say it's going to go down and it goes up, we're just dumb, we're wrong. We don't know what we're talking about. And so I'm not here to tell you guys what is going to happen. My whole goal is to just provide reason, give you both sides of the story to allow you to make educated decisions based off of your own research. And I hope you do appreciate that. And so with that, one thing that I will say is that sure, there are bearish indicators and there's things that are looking quite bearish, but I do believe that the bulls are still acting. We are seeing the fundamentals get much stronger, especially with all of these miners locating to the United States and purchasing up all of these different rigs. I'm excited to see what the future does hold. And so I will, of course, update you guys very soon on what we are expecting. Personally speaking, I do believe that we are going to see some type of continued downward momentum until we do establish support. But I am still just in the mindset that we are going to see this uptrend start at some point, and we are at least going to start to retest that 40,000 range again. I'd be highly surprised if it doesn't happen. But of course, I will update you guys and let you guys know what I'm thinking and how my opinions do change as time does go on. I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. It's kind of a super update where I just go over all of the technicals. If you do like longer videos like this where I really break down each and everything that I'm looking at, you can definitely let me know in the comment section, and of course by smashing that like button, and I will see you all very soon. Peace.